how's it going, everybody? What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about installing brand new exhaust riser gaskets. Now this one is a Volvo Penta style, but the OMC I believe uses the same part number as it relates to this model. So make sure if you're using a 5 liter, get a 5 liter riser gasket. It's not interchangeable with a 5.8. And just for reference, this is a 5.8. The difference on a 5.8 and a 5.0 is these are a little bit more rounded. So this they're not interchangeable. The reason we're going after this, and you may see this as well, is yeah, there is a gasket in here. I can see it. But obviously I've got corrosion all over the place. The other side's even worse. Let me show you what the other side looks like. I actually have the riser off already, and I want to give you a little glimpse of what we're getting into, because this riser for sure it's intact, but the seal for sure is not anything like this anymore. And I think overall, I want to say this boat had a huge issue with corrosion. Either they weren't using the proper types of anodes or something like that. And I'm going to do a video on anodes probably coming up here as you're doing your rebuild. If you don't have the right anodes, I think it's going to really cause you some issues. And I think that's kind of what happened here. Maybe that as well as some saltwater corrosion just in general. So let's flip over to the other side. Let me show you. I got it already taken off and wire brushed. Okay, take a look here. So you can see I wire brushed this whole area already, keeping away from the valve cover so I don't scratch that up at all. But you can see that the surface is very clean now. It wasn't like that before. Let me show you what the riser itself looked like. Well, let me show you what the riser looks like when it's all clean as well. Okay, take a look. This took, in order to get this surface like this, it took 5 minutes with the wire brush, and that's an electric one, to get it clean like this. And it took a lot of work, I tell you what, but it looks good. I'm definitely looking forward to putting the new seals on here, because I think it's going to make a huge difference. Let's show you real quick. I'm going to take the cover off my OMC so you can kind of see the difference here, what it looks like when it's actually clean. And just for reference, this is not the OMC, by the way. This is what I was talking about. You can see the corrosion around the white, around the bolts and everything. So let's go look at the OMC real quick. It uses the same style risers and uses a similar gasket. Okay, let's get the cover off here. You can kind of see here, yeah, we have a little surface rust in here, and this is from when I rebuilt it originally. But all I did on this side was actually just take out the bolts. But you can see here, this is the original. And if you notice, there's not really, other than a little bit of rust, there's not really any kind of corrosion like you see on the other side where the seal is, simply put, failing. So this is actually the 400 horsepower OMC that I rebuilt. This one's going to come next after I get the Volvo Penta installed, so stay tuned for this one. This is going to be a crazy motor. Like I said, OMC never put 400 horsepower in any of their motors. I did in this one, and it's going to be super fast. In fact, I haven't even started it yet. I'm waiting to do a video series on it, so stay tuned for this one. Okay, so you may be wondering how to get it off. You may be tempted to start unbolting all the electronics. Totally don't have to. All you're going to do is go after these. I believe they're 9/16, and hopefully you don't have your manifolds on already. If you do, that's going to be a little bit of added work to get that off. So anyway, let's go ahead and loosen up those 4 bolts here so we can get this side off. Okay, so don't forget to undo the screw or the bolt over here on this side, because otherwise it's going to hold you up. If this is a 94, that means it's got a cone clutch in it, which is freaking awesome. If you don't have a cone clutch in yours, you'll know it, because there's a huge ESA component with intermittent devices in here. So I got a whole video series on that, by the way. So anyway, now that we got this thing loosened up, let's go ahead Get the electronics out of the way. The other side is easy to get off. Keep in mind, this thing is pretty heavy, so as you see me hitting this thing, you got to be careful. This thing comes flying down. It'll hit the battery. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab it and then take it off manually and start working on getting this out of the boat. Another thing to mention, if you've got one of your saltwater boats and you're working on it, you may have to take out your rubber mallet and hit this a little bit. Use a rubber mallet and don't use a hammer. This is cast iron and it will break the cast iron if you're not careful. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and tap this a little bit more. This side is definitely on pretty tight here. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and keep hitting it with the rubber mallet. Okay. A few whacks there and decide to come off. Alright, this thing is super heavy. I'll go ahead and get it out of the boat with two hands now. Take a look here. So this side came off a little bit easier, but there's still a good amount of corrosion in here. You can see the seal. What's left of it is not in the best of shape. Alright. I think that's all we're going to be able to get off. Yeah. Let's hit it with the wire brush. Okay. Take a look at this. 5 minutes or so to get it nice. It was not the worst of shape. I mean, it's pretty decent. You can see the other side as well. This definitely needed the risers done. Like I said, they were pretty bad shape. So let's go ahead. I'll jump out of the boat and finish cleaning up the other side now. Okay, so here's a good side-by-side comparison. Cleaned, not clean. You can see, I want to say most of the gasket stuck to the riser. Interesting enough here. But anyway, it takes about 5 minutes or so for each side. You could do the whole thing in about 20 minutes. Just keep an eye out for any kind of chipped pieces as you're doing yours. Like, that's normal, those reliefs. But you just want to make sure you're not missing like a huge piece of manifold riser. If you do, you're gonna have to get another one. They do sell these. All right, so let's go ahead now and wire brush this side. Okay, and that's gonna do it. So they are nice and clean at this point. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of marine, I guess you would say primer around here, just to make sure we don't have any future rust spots here, although it will rust a little bit. Cast iron happens to do that, but I figure we put a little bit of etching marine primer on this sucker. So these suckers are heavy, I'll tell you what. Anyway, let's go ahead and get a little spray on both of these, and we'll go ahead and get the seals installed. Okay, what do you think? Not very bad overspray, huh? That's because I used some shop towels. So there you go. All right, let's go ahead, since we are just about done here, let's go ahead and throw on the new seals, tighten everything up, and we should be good to go. Okay, take a look here. Fresh coating, marine paint. These are seals from a 5.8. So if you're working on a Ford motor, just be aware that they're not all the same. This is the correct version here. It's got a little bit more of a rounded edge to it that kind of fits around here. So I have a little bit of both of these laying around. I said, oh yeah, the 5.8 will work. No, it doesn't. So double check when you're doing yours. The sealing surface, if you know me, you would think, you know, I'm going to put marine adhesive around all this. Definitely don't do that. Not with this. It just gets too hot, and there's no benefit. If anything, you for the bolts, you can use anti-seize for sure, because they are a pain to get out. Anyway, let's go look at the manifolds. Okay, you can see here that those are primed and looking good as well. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and put the gaskets on here, and there really isn't a exact way that they need to go. Put one in on the other side as well. Looking good. Alright, and then what we'll do here with these bolts, if you've got an abundance of rust on yours, go ahead and take and clean them off real good, and then we're going to go ahead and apply some anti-seize to it. Okay, you can see on this side I've already applied some of the anti-seize. Probably the only thing I would put around this area, just because it gets so hot and there's a lot of water in the area, which means rust. So it's a good idea to put it in. I think it's probably one of the only places that we've talked about so far in the series where we would actually use anti-seize. But in general, when I'm working on some of these older motors, I apply it quite often on a lot of different parts of it. You never know when you're going to have to remove it, especially for salt water too. I tell you, this is a freshwater boat, but for some of the saltwater applications, I would definitely use it more often than not. Okay, let's do the back two, put some anti-seize on those and get those started. Okay, slide that down in there. Get that to start. Let's grab the other one. Get it to start in there. Yep, looks good. Let's see if we can start tightening them down a little bit. Once we get these all the way snug, we'll talk about the torque that you can put on them. It actually kind of differs depending on the year, make, and model. But what I did for everybody who's watching this, because I'm sure everyone's application is going to be a little bit different, is I went and looked at what the middle ground is for the different models. And if you're just watching this video and you're in your boat right now saying, hey, just give me a torque, I need to know what it is, tighten yours down to 12 foot-pounds, and that'll be good. Some of the earlier models had a different level of torque, but their highs were 12, and then some of the later models, like the 94s, they started off with their torque being at 12, and they went up to, I believe, like 18 foot-pounds. So if you're just wondering right now, like, you know, what should I torque mine to, it's gonna be 12. If you're noticing when you're underway and you're watching, you know, you just pull the cover off here and you notice you have water seeping around here, then maybe if you have one of the later models, go in and retorque it to 18, and then that should get the water to stop flowing. Okay, so we've got these pretty well snugged. I want it to be where they don't free turn just with my hand, which is what we got there. Let's go ahead and put the torque wrench to 12, and let's see what these go. See what it looks like when we torque them down. Okay, here we go. Let's try this other one here. That seems pretty good. I mean, it feels like it's pretty tight. Good, and last one. Alright, let's just crisscross one more time. Good. And once I can get a firm snap like that on all of them, I'm going to stop. But I'll go through a few times. Yeah, like they're not moving at all now. Last one here. Yeah, that's it. That's good. So basically what I'm going to do is do the same thing on the other side. But that is it. You can see here we've got our new gasket installed. And like I said, we didn't put any gasket sealant compound between these two surfaces because this manifold just gets too hot for that. And this sealed surface should be fine in and of itself here. You can see we've got the anti-seize inside the thread, so that's going to help if you ever have to remove this again. You won't snap any of these bolts off in the manifold, so that's a good thing. That's pretty much going to do it for this video. We'll call it like part 1, I guess. And part 2, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how and what order to install all the different bends, the coupler, the rubber couplers on both sides. So I'll go ahead and install this other manifold riser on the other side. Just keep that in mind. 12 foot-pounds of torque is a good middle ground for everyone. If you want higher numbers, I can get those for you. If you leave some comments in the comments field below, or if you have any questions or anything, leave that in the comments field. As always, don't forget to subscribe. There should be a picture of me riding in a boat. You just click on that and you can subscribe to my channel that way. Like the video if you thought it was helpful. And as always, we'll catch you up on the next episode. Have a good one, everybody.